Taken from the book Stories and Tales of Therianor. Eat and drink in Aragmador. Half a day in the capital of the cities of the Central Kingdom. I know very well that no one occupies the word kingdoms, but when the order was created many years ago, the kings and the Grey High Priest divided Therianor into kingdoms, and well, Aragmador was transformed in the capital of the Central Kingdom, and in the order we must use the proper term, or at least that's what the captains say. Together with my partner Ilgas, I entered one of the busiest taverns in Aragmador, the Sinner, so reads the sign that hangs heavily over the front door. I must clarify that we are not wasting time, or at least that is what I tell myself every day, trying to keep my dignity high, although at this point there is not much left. King Myzirid entrusted us to visit the different cities of Therianor to select the best places to eat, drink and visit. Apparently he plans to take a long vacation starting with Marianor in the South Kingdom, and it turns out that for some reason that I will not comment, his escort is composed by men of the order like me and Ilgas. Upon entering the tavern I showed him the royal ID that allowed us to eat, lodge and travel freely and without cost in all places where the peace of the Queen, of King Myzirid was acting, that is, almost in all Therianor except Ulma, Drugil and its camps, and High Brian. But who would want to go to High Brian, Drugil and the camps anyway? Ulma could be an option, but it is too far away to count it as a tourist place, at least for someone who does not live in the north. We sat near the fireplace that at this time and in the heat of the season remained as a simple ornament. "What are you going to ask?" Ilgas, my rough companion and guardian many times, looked at me dejectedly. "It's not like we had a lot of choice, right? Anyway, we must try everything they have." Ilgas was right. We had to test everything and send the reports directly to the king as soon as we reached each of the order's guards, so there was no option. An order was an order, although clearly we both disliked it. I would rather be in the north hunting savages with General Icorid than to be in this absurdity under the orders of a brat, but it was not going against the orders of the king himself, beyond his legitimacy, and I did not want to die so young and without wife. The waitress, a slim but strong-armed lady, brought to the table 2 huge loaves of bread, a bottle of Aragmador wine, and a plate full of semi-ripe cheese cuts. Ilgas looked at the food with a better face than he had when he entered. "Well, this is much better than what they have served us in the pigsty we have visited before." I tried to hide my laughter. "Come on, we've only visited small villages around Aragmador, the king will never visit them, so for now let's enjoy, take it as if we were on vacation too." Ilgas took a piece of cheese between his hands, broke it in 2, and popped one of them into his mouth. I didn't join the order for this. Neither did I, but it is what touched us. It is not that we can question it. Everyone knows that the order has gradually become the guard of the city and those who ensure the so famous peace of the king. Ilgas ate the other half of the cheese, then poured some of the aromatic Aragmador wine into a wooden goblet whose interior was topped with steel. "I've been thinking of joining the suicide battalion." I choked on food as soon as Ilgas made that comment. "By all the gods, is your brain atrophied?" I had to drink a full glass of wine to calm myself. "I'm serious, I want to give my life for a greater good, not to fight my teeth against a piece of this bread." Ilgas took a loaf of bread and took a huge bite without contemplation, as if punishing the bread. "Well, you don't seem very convinced. It doesn't seem like you refused to eat." "Well," Ilgas swallowed the bread that was still in his mouth, "I couldn't refuse a good free meal." At that moment the waitress brought a huge piece of pork ribs, accompanied by potatoes sautéed with dill, a true delicacy, very traditional in the center of Therianor. There was no room or canteen that did not have the dish among its delights, although more often than not, it was not as succulent as this wonderful dish. Some of them bathed the pork in black beer while cooking, accompanying it with onions. In this case they had only bathed it with black beer, also from Aragmador. The aroma that expelled the dish, the herbs on the potatoes and the meat of the pork rib itself was a delicacy in itself, and they whetted anyone's appetite, even people who, like Ilgas, did not want to eat. Don't resist food, friend Ilgas. It's our duty to try it, even if we don't want to. My partner spread a piece of bread in the brown juices of the rack. He tasted it instantly, changing his expression by magic. It's actually quite good. Joining the suicide battalion is crazy, the same nickname says it, and once inside it is very likely that you will not return to the capital. How many years has General Ikorid been outside the capital? Ilgas thought about it for a few seconds as he cut a huge piece of ribs for himself and me. I think about 3 or 4 years ago, I'm not sure, but it seems to me that he came on a short visit 1 or 2 ago, but it's more than, of course. He has never stayed more than 5 days in the capital, despite the fact that his designated territory is the center. The evil tongues say that the great judge himself wants it as far as possible. I wouldn't be surprised if it were. After all, many of his men are simply mercenaries, savages. Can you imagine fighting with them by your side? It's like letting your enemy take care of your back when separating some ribs. The delicious smell of pork hit my face, taking away the concentration of rennet. Ilgas took out some potatoes. They were perfectly golden, and the smell of the herbs surrounded our table, making the mouths of the rest of the diners water, who barely had bread and wine on their tables and looked at us enviously. If they were so dangerous, the general wouldn't have them among his men, or do you think he's an idiot? Ilgas broke a potato and the steam covered his face with subtlety. I have not brandished my sword in years. I don't even know what it feels like to hold the hilt. Even the calluses have softened. I have been rotting in Aragmador for so long that my brain is getting numb. Youth and strength don't last forever. Ilgas was right, but he also did not want to go from peace to being in constant danger. The general's forces spent too much time at the front, clearing the roads and fighting savages on the edge of the Therianor, and they had been living for too long a tranquility that lulled them to sleep. You're right, but I don't think I can go from what I'm doing now to that. You can't ask me to jump from this comfortable place onto a cliff. I'm not suicidal, you know. Ilgas savored the potatoes as if he had never tasted anything like it, and the pork ribs bathed his fingers with the delicious juices. He licked his hand, extracting every last drop of the nectars from the food. Well, that's what I plan to do. I don't care much about the king's order. You seem to be forgetting one thing. The knights of the order don't obey the king, but the grand judge. I looked up in surprise. The more we talked about it, the more it seemed to me that Ilgas would at any moment run to the sanctuary to ask to be relieved of this obligation and set out to look for Ikorid the White and his hosts. Calm down, Ilgas. I don't want you to go to your death. I think we're young enough for that. Ilgas finished his potato, wiped his hands with a cloth this time, and, giving me the firmer look that I had ever seen him, said to me, "Every hour we waste on these empty things is like a needle piercing my chest. It hurts. I prefer to go to my death with dignity than to grow old like a coward, without having given my maximum, without ever having tried myself as a man in my life." His words ran through every part of my consciousness. I felt like something inside me had shaken and squeezed violently. It made me feel like I should follow him, that I should leave with him at that precise moment, that I should turn my life around and walk to glory, however brief. I swallowed hard. By gods, I know I'm going to regret this, Ilgas. But let's stop this fucking food and go to sanctuary now before I regret it. Red Lighter must be around. He can relieve us of this stupid task and we go north. My partner's eyes flashed suddenly. It seemed that he only needed a little push, just as he had done for me. I had pushed him, almost as if by magic we pushed each other. Let's go now before that you regret it. Ilgas stood up, almost knocking the chair over. Thanks for the food. Send the bill to the palace, Ilgas told them while he left the royal seal on the shopkeeper's counter. Accompany the seals so that they pay you everything. Add something else for the rest of those present. Those who heard him applauded euphorically. Free food was much more than they would have expected from someone in the order. The grocer's smile almost dislocated his face. Ilgas took me by the arm and I almost dragged myself towards the street. Let's go at once or maybe I'll regret it too. I took a breath while under my armor, skin, and muscles. My heart struggled to run away, but at the same time I did not want to let this feeling die. It was so exhilarating. I wished with all my might that this would last forever, so for a moment I got up my courage. I let go of my companion's grip and walked with strength and grace towards the sanctuary. The people on the main avenue looked like dolls to me. I was so focused on my task that I didn't realize how long it took us to walk the entire avenue and climb the hundreds of white marble steps to the sanctuary. Once in front of the huge and imposing building, the beautiful pools received us with the pleasant spray of the waters that flowed everywhere. Come on Ilgas, we started this as little men, but I assure you we will come to the end as warriors of steel and blood. Ilgas was a little tense, but he was still very determined. You couldn't have said it better. We clashed our fists. Of steel and blood, Milkas, of steel and blood.
Si nuestro trabajo te ha gustado, no olvides darle like y suscribirte para recibir notificaciones de nuestras próximas historias. Si quieres apoyar nuestro proyecto editorial, puedes seguirnos en Patreon o apoyar en forma directa mediante Flow en los links de la descripción.